Our digging in Marlboro County, South Carolina, unearthed this jailhouse assault video back in 2021. It shows Marlboro County Sheriff Charles Lemon ordering Deputy Andrew Cook to use a taser on a man inside the county jail back in May of 2020. The sheriff and a deputy were both indicted over this video. Our chief investigator, reporter Jody Varr, uncovered this video during our final disrespects investigation out of Marlboro County.
Hey, Jody joins us now from the federal courthouse in Florence, where a jury is now getting ready to decide Charles Lemon's future. Jody?
Well, Brian and Alicia, in about 15 hours, Charles Lemon, the suspended Marlboro County Sheriff, will take a seat here inside this federal courthouse at the defense table as the federal government tries to convict him on that one count of civil rights violation. Also this week, the federal jury will get a look at that video and decide whether Charles Lemon committed a civil rights violation against an inmate in the county jail there more than 4 years ago. Lemon and former Deputy Andrew Cook both were indicted by the federal grand jury here in January, each on one count of violating Gerald Johnson's civil rights in that jailhouse assault, again from May 2020. Federal prosecutors offered Deputy Cook a plea deal, and Cook wasted no time taking it. Now, if Cook provides substantial assistance, the Justice Department will ask the court to cut his potential 10-year prison sentence down to a maximum of 2 years, thereby making Andrew Cook the star witness against his former boss. Charles Lemon did not take the plea deal and faces up to 10 years in a federal prison if convicted.
Jody, it's Monday. Trial started today. You told me the government expects this trial to run 3 to 4 days, but there was no jury selection today.
There was not. This jury, interestingly enough, was selected back on July 15th. Typically, jury selection would be happening today, the first day of trial, but there was nothing happening in this courthouse today. Charles Lemon was not here. Neither were the prosecutors trying to put him away for up to 10 years. But the U.S. Attorney's Office will not tell us the number of men, the number of women, the racial makeup of this jury, or whether any of these jurors are from Marlboro County. But we will get our first look at the jury 9 o'clock tomorrow when Charles Lemon and that jury and the prosecutors walk into this courthouse to get this lost trust trial underway.
Yeah, Jody Varr staying on top of things for us in Marlboro County. We're going to keep coming back to you here throughout the rest of this week as you stay on top of it, Jody. And as that Lemon trial gets underway this week, you can follow the latest developments on air and online. We'll have extensive coverage of this investigation on our website. Just click on the Investigations tab at qcnews.com.
Charles Lemon is officially on trial after a Queen City News investigation led to his arrest. Lemon was at the center of our lost trust investigation, and video shows the then sheriff ordering a deputy to use a taser to shock an inmate several times inside the county jail in May of 2020. Someone inside the sheriff's office later destroyed that body cam evidence before our chief investigative reporter Jody Varr obtained the recording.
Jody joins us live in Florence tonight, where day one of Lemon's federal trial just wrapped up. And Jody, what did happen in the courtroom today?
Well, Brian, you know, short of the verdict day, this is probably the biggest day. We had opening statements today, and the prosecution coming out swinging, putting their lead hitter up on the stand this morning. They put former Deputy Andrew Cook, the man who pulled the trigger on that taser, on the stand this morning to testify against the former Marlboro County Sheriff. But I'll tell you this, though. First, the prosecution in its opening statement described former Sheriff Charles Lemon as a lawman who abused his power and authority inside the jail that day when he ordered the tasing of an inmate. But the defense says this is all about getting a dangerous man to comply that day, saying that the feds are now Monday morning quarterbacking the split-second decisions Charles Lemon and Deputy Andrew Cook had to make that morning inside the Marlboro County Jail. But this is all about a use of force question. Did Lemon and Cook go too far? But there is agreement, though, between the prosecution and defense. Both sides agreed that the first 2 taser strikes were justified that morning. But the government said strikes 3, 4, 5, and 6 were unjustified, and that Gerald Johnson was actually getting into his cell, trying to comply with the orders from Lemon and Cook that morning to get into that jail cell. Now, one of the 2 men charged in this case does agree with the prosecution, and that is Deputy Andrew Cook. Cook is keeping up his end of the plea deal here, testifying against his former boss, Charles Lemon. He was on the stand for most of the day today. Back in January, Cook pleaded guilty to this civil rights violation, admitting that he and Lemon both went way too far that morning in the Marlboro County Jail during that tasing. Cook says he was trained that you use a maximum of 3 taser strikes in an incident. This morning, he admitted that that day in May of 2020, he used 6 strikes against Gerald Johnson.
So Jody, I have to ask you, you've been covering this case for a while. Did we learn anything new from Cook's testimony?
Well, first off, today, Cook admitted that he was testifying for one reason. You know, under this plea deal, he had to testify. And he told the jury this morning, yeah, he was testifying to curry favor with the judge at his own sentencing. He also testified that the Marlboro County Sheriff's Office had no use of force policy or a taser policy the day that this tasing happened inside the county jail. Cook also testified that Gerald Johnson was cooperating from the arrest till the time that Cook got him into the jail. But that was until Sheriff Lemon got involved, when you could see in that video Lemon berating, at one point yelling at Gerald Johnson when Johnson turned around and lunged at him. And then Lemon ordered Cook, even right before that lunge, to tase Gerald Johnson, and he did so multiple times. Cook, though, told this jury today that he would have never tased Gerald Johnson without the orders from Lemon to do so. And Cook said after those first 2 taser shots, he said those final 4, again, he told the jury, those were not justified. He had no legal reason to give those, and he only did so because his boss, who he was looking to for guidance in that situation, told him to do so.
Jody, a lot of eye-opening testimony in court today. What's on tap for tomorrow? You'll be there.
Yeah, it's going to be a little dry here for the next several round of witnesses. The prosecution, they plan to put up their own expert witnesses. These are use of force people, the Criminal Justice Academy, maybe one from another sheriff's office. So there are going to be a lot of technical testimony over when force is appropriate. They're going to analyze this video. The jury saw this video multiple times today, so we'll keep you covered, though, on the day's events. But again, the biggest witness today, short of Sheriff Lemon taking the stand in his own defense, was Andrew Cook, who admitted that most of what they did that day, they should not have done.
All right, Jody Barr, wrapping it up for us. Thank you so much. Out of Florence, we appreciate your reporting.
First tonight at 6, a former sheriff closer to learning his fate inside a South Carolina courtroom. Good evening, I'm Brian Blakely.
Good evening, I'm Alicia Barnes with the U.S. Justice Department now working to convict the former sheriff of Marlboro County, Charles Lemon, after a Queen City News investigation led to his arrest.
How do you think yesterday went, Mr. Lemon?
He has no comment, Mr. Barr.
He could say that.
No, he has no comment. Thank you, though.
Good luck, Sheriff.
Well, Jody joins us now live in Florence right now, where day 2 of Lemon's federal trial has just wrapped up. And Jody, understand you heard some new details in court today on the sheriff's training record.
Brian, we did. Prosecutors said today that Charles Lemon knew the rules, and they say that because Lemon actually completed the State Police Academy's training on when and how to use a taser. Now, at the center of all of this is where the Lemon and former Deputy Andrew Cook used excessive force and took all of this too far. The South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy records shown to this jury today show that on February 8th of 2018, Charles Lemon completed the course on the use of force and the appropriate times to and not the times not to use a taser on a detainee. The prosecutors say this training is proof that Charles Lemon knew what happened inside the jail that day should have never happened.
Were there any surprises in court today?
Well, yeah, you know, we told you yesterday, prosecutors said that they expect to call some expert witnesses today, but a huge surprise this afternoon, and that was Ronnie Johnson. He is Jarrell Johnson, the victim in the tasing. It's his father. Now, Jarrell Johnson had beaten his father that morning severely. He was life-flighted to a hospital, not expected to make it, and that beating is what got Gerald Johnson inside the Marlboro County Detention Center that day to start all of this. Today, Ronnie Johnson testified that he knew his son was tased some days after he woke up in the hospital, but he only knew the story from the Marlboro County Sheriff's Office, and the story that the Sheriff's Office gave Mr. Johnson at that point was that his son tried to attack Charles Lemon, and they used a taser to stave off that attack. But it wasn't until December 2021, 19 months after this tasing, that Ronnie Johnson learned the full story behind this. And he got that story when I met with him and his wife outside of Cheraw to show them the body camera recording, a recording that they had no idea existed before this meeting between us. Ronnie Johnson told the jury it was our meeting that led him to start questioning everything the Marlboro County Sheriff's Office told him about what happened that day. He also told the jury the most memorable moment to him in that video was when Charles Lemon, and you could hear it in that recording, Charles Lemon told Jarrell Johnson, "I know your whole family." And when Charles Lemon told the deputy to stick that taser to his head, Ronnie Johnson says he took that as essentially an order for Charles Lemon to give the deputy the full rein to kill his son. Jarrell Johnson also took the stand today. The prosecutors tried to question him about what he remembered that day, whether he remembered turning to lunge at the sheriff. But Jarrell Johnson told this jury the only thing he remembers from that day are the first 2 taser strikes and has no recollection of the final 4 taser strikes that law enforcement, the prosecution, argued were unjustified. So it's not much memory of that, but Jarrell Johnson is here and he's testifying. He took the stand today and he's not yet finished.
Yeah, Jody, certainly some emotional testimony here today from the family. And so far we've had those surprise witnesses as well. Any idea what's going to be coming in court tomorrow?
Well, we'll tell you the prosecution they just finished with Jarrell Johnson today. The defense was getting up to cross-examine him. The judge is cutting this off at 5 o'clock every day. So the judge sent the jury home. The defense will have their shot at Jarrell Johnson starting at 9:30 here in the morning. But it's also the witnesses that the defense have called and the prosecution have called are not allowed in the courtroom, so they're all cordoned off inside this courthouse in different rooms. But coming in through the security gate earlier today after the lunch break, I ran into former Marlboro County Sheriff's Lieutenant Trevor Murphy. Murphy was the one that brought this video to light. He's also the one that came to us and went on camera and started this lost trust investigation. He told me that he fully expects to be called here probably tomorrow to testify, but he's been holed up in a witness room, so we expect that could be tomorrow or the next day. It's just a moving target here. We have to take these witnesses as the government gives them to us.
All right, Jody Barr reporting live from Florence, South Carolina. We appreciate you keeping us up to date. Thanks, Jody.
First tonight at 6, a former South Carolina sheriff's federal trial is coming to a close after a Queen City News investigation led to his arrest. Good evening. At 6, I'm Brian Blakely.
Good evening to you. I'm Alicia Barnes. So day 3 of Marlboro County's Charles Lemon's trial just wrapped up in Florence.
Now, Lemon was at the center of our lost trust investigation. Video shows the then sheriff ordered then Deputy Andrew Cook to use a taser to shock at inmates several times inside the county jail in May of 2020. Someone inside the sheriff's office later destroyed that body cam evidence, but our chief investigative reporter Jody Barr obtained the recording. Now, Cook took the stand earlier this week in the first day of Lemon's trial after pleading guilty for his role in the incident.
And Jody has been following this investigation and trial very closely, joining us live here in Florence. Jody, you have breaking news on this case right now. What can you tell us?
Well, Alicia, about 90 minutes ago, the prosecution, the federal government, rested its case against Charles Bernard Lemon. Now it's Lemon's defense team's turn to convince this federal jury that he is innocent, not guilty of the charges against him. But the man who got all this started and the man at the center of our lost trust investigation took the stand today. Trevor Murphy, who led Marlboro County Sheriff Charles Lemon's investigative unit, showed up as a prosecution witness this morning.
And then when somebody violates that or violates you, report it. If nobody listens at the sheriff's office, go to SLED. If nobody listens at SLED, go to the FBI. If nobody listens at the FBI, go to Jody Barr. So find somebody that'll listen, and once they do, let the Lord handle the rest.
Now, we met with Murphy during our final disrespects investigation in Marlboro County back in late 2021. Murphy went on the record with us, providing us a document titled Lemon Laws, a booklet that he said detailed multiple civil rights violations committed by his then boss, Sheriff Charles Lemon. Murphy also provided us and SLED with a copy of that booklet and the jailhouse tasing video from May 2020, a video that led to the indictments of Charles Lemon and former Deputy Andrew Cook. prosecutors questioned Murphy about the press release he sent out in May of 2020 about the jailhouse tasing and how the sheriff's office painted that incident. The subject line of that email read, "Man accused of assaulting Sheriff Lemon." The press release continued that Jarrell Johnson was putting the safety of those at the jail at risk and that Johnson attempted to flee from his jail cell. And after the assault, Sheriff Lemon is fine and in good health. Murphy testified he discussed his press release with Lemon before he sent it to reporters, and Lemon approved it. The indication here is the sheriff's version of what happened did not tell the full story. Prosecutors also called a SLED expert who analyzed both Lemon and Cook's tasers from the jailhouse use of force case. Lemon's taser showed he never fired his taser, but data shows Lemon turned it on and off 6 times during that tasing incident. Deputy Cook's data showed 6 trigger pulls, and he shot Jarrell Johnson a total of 29 seconds during that encounter.
Now, Jody, with the prosecution resting its case today, we understand the defense is asking the judge to do something that could end this case actually tomorrow.
They did. Late this afternoon, Lemon's side filed a motion for acquittal. They're asking this federal judge to find that the prosecution failed to prove any of the elements of the charges against Charles Lemon. Now, if the judge grants that acquittal, Lemon walks free here tomorrow. But if the judge denies the motion, the case then goes to the jury, as all cases do when the defense wraps up its case here, which is expected. They expect to rest tomorrow, but still, from the timeline both sides discussed with the judge today, it doesn't look like the jury will get this case until sometime early next week.
All right, looks like it's going to be a big day tomorrow. Jody Barr reporting live in Florence, South Carolina. Thank you for that.
Right now at 6, a former South Carolina sheriff's federal trial is near the end after a Queen City News investigation led to his arrest. Good evening, I'm Brian Blakely. Day 4 of Marlboro County Sheriff's Charles Lemon's federal trial just wrapped up in Florence. And a former longtime Marlboro County Sheriff came to Charles Lemon's defense today in a moment in time when Lemon needed him the most.
You're here to testify as a character witness for Mr. Lemon. What do you think about that video? What did you think when you saw it?
I had no comment about that.
Well, you were the former sheriff.
Yes, sir, I'm going to leave it up to the jury and let them decide. I appreciate it.
Would you have put up with that as sheriff if he worked for you?
Like I said, I'm not going to make any comment.
Thanks.
Fred Knight is hoping that he can help convince the jury his longtime friend isn't the cop prosecutors made him out to be. Our chief investigative reporter, Jody Barr, has been in court all week following all the developments. Now, he joins us live in Florence right now. Jody, there was a problem in court today that has now delayed this trial.
Yeah, Brian, first off, the defense expected to finish up today, but a water and sewer failure here in the city of Florence cut short court today. The judge sent the jury home, shut things down, and told them to come back here Monday. But this morning, the judge decided the Charles Lemon motion for acquittal. You'll remember we reported yesterday that Charles Lemon asked for that late in the day before court finished here yesterday. Lemon wanted the judge to find that prosecutors failed to provide evidence of Lemon's guilt. The judge denied that motion, saying there's plenty of evidence and testimony for the jury to make a decision in this case. Lemon's side started calling witnesses this morning, and they started with 2 character witnesses. Now, the first one was former Marlboro County Sheriff Fred Knight, who worked with Lemon for 17 years at the sheriff's office, and Lemon was Knight's chief deputy for 12 of those years. Knight told the jury Charles Lemon was very respectful to people and praised Lemon's work ethic, calling him his right-hand man. But the prosecution pounced, pointing out that Knight told SLED and the FBI in an interview after Lemon's arrest that Charles Lemon claimed he was trying to console Jarrell Johnson inside the jail and that Johnson turned to attack the sheriff. The jailhouse video, though, does not show that. Knight, from the witness stand, denied saying that in his statement to investigators, so the prosecutor played that video to the jury. Knight then admitted telling that to the agents investigating the tasing. Now, neither former sheriff would talk with me about that here today. Mr. Knight, did you lie to or try to mislead the FBI instead in your statement you gave them?
Jody, I had no comment.
Well, this is your chance to clear that up before we report what the prosecutor accused you of. Why would they tell you that? Those agents tell you that?
Well,
I can't go any further. I would. Mr. Lemon, did you tell Mr. Knight you tried to console Jarrell Johnson? Now, Lemon's use of force expert started his testimony today, but again, the city's water sewer problem cut that short, Brian.
Well, Jody, from the limited testimony that we got from Lemon's use of force expert today, was there anything that came out of that to indicate where the defense is heading?
Well, I think it's logically it is that expert's opinion that all 6 of these tasing incidents inside the jail that day were all justified. Now, they didn't get much further. Obviously, the prosecution will poke holes in Lemon's defense by questioning this expert when we get back here next week. But yeah, all 6, they went through every single one in that video, and the defense expert testified today that he felt that every single one of those were justified, despite prosecutors saying that after the first 2, the other 4, well, that Lemon should be convicted of those.
Jody, also today, that the sewer and water problems you talked about delaying the start of this today. Does that have anything to do with how it's going to delay the timing of the trials ending right now?
Yeah, it does. Again, the defense thought they were going to finish up today. They could have possibly gotten to the jury charge, where the judge tells the jury what the law is and gives them instructions on deliberating these accusations, these charges. But that obviously won't happen today. They expect to come back Monday with the defense finishing up its case. They think they can get it done Monday. If so, the timing would be that the judge would charge the jury with the law and then set them loose, hopefully deliberating here Monday evening. If it's too late in the day, I don't know. This judge has promised the jury they would leave every day at 5. So if it's much later, that could go into Tuesday. But who knows right now, Brian? We really don't know what the schedule may be.
Yeah, Jody Barr live in Florence all week for the Lost Trust trial and investigation here. And looks like you'll be back again on Monday. All right. And you can follow the latest developments on this trial on air and online. We have extensive coverage of the investigation on our website with Jody Barr. And just click on the investigations tab at qcnews.com.
So it's day 5 of Marlboro County former Sheriff Charles Lemon's federal trial, still underway right now with the jury deliberating. I want to bring in live from Florence, Jody Barr. You have been following all the major developments, and some big things happened today. Jody, what can you tell us?
Well, first off, jury deliberations have begun. This Charles Lemon's federal jury just leaving the courtroom about 10 minutes ago. They are now in the back deliberating his fate on this civil rights abuse charge. But the other big development was Charles Lemon took the stand in his own defense here today. Lemon told this jury that he went to the jail that day to help. Lemon says the taser was the only option he had in the jail that day because Jarrell Johnson would not listen to orders to get inside that jail cell. Now, remember from the video, Lemon ordered Deputy Andrew Cook to stick the taser to Jarrell Johnson's head. Lemon said that he never meant for Cook to do that, and it was only a scare tactic to get Jarrell Johnson to get into that jail cell. Lemon also testified his actions were not to punish Jarrell Johnson that day. It was to get Jarrell Johnson to comply, follow their orders, and to get inside the jail cell. Now, the prosecutor got his chance to question Charles Lemon. The prosecutor pointed out that Jarrell Johnson was fully compliant with every command Charles Lemon gave, and all this happened before the handcuffs came off. Lemon told Jarrell Johnson to take his shoes off. He did that. Lemon also told Johnson to step toward the jail door 2 different times. Prosecutors say the video shows Jarrell Johnson did exactly that. Now, those were the only commands prosecutors told the jury that Charles Lemon gave Jarrell Johnson that day. The prosecutor also said Charles Lemon was irritated and angry and took that out on Jarrell Johnson. The prosecution also told the jury Charles Lemon did nothing less than abuse Jarrell Johnson inside that jailhouse in May 2020.
So, Jody, a couple questions for you. First, some people really questioning how Charles Lemon can be found guilty if he never actually pulled the trigger. What can you tell us?
Well, Alicia, the judge addressed that to this jury here this afternoon in his jury instructions, and he said You may question, because Charles Lemon did not pull a taser trigger that day, then how could this jury possibly find Charles Lemon guilty? Well, under the legal standard of aiding and abetting, that is a standard where if someone orders someone else to commit a crime, that person is just as responsible. Prosecutors say Charles Lemon's "pop it to him" comment was the order that makes Lemon just as guilty as Andrew Cook. The prosecutor closed telling the jury that Lemon's "there you go" comments each time that taser was fired is evidence of a lawman, the most powerful lawman in Marlboro County. This is evidence, prosecutors say, that he had lost control that day in that jail.
And Jody, now the jury is deliberating, and before you tell us what's going to happen next, are you able to tell us about any of the emotion going on inside visibly? Are you able to see anything just in terms of how Charles Lemon looks every day being there inside of the courthouse?
No, I mean, Lemon is a man who's sitting there. He's watching the evidence presented against him. He's watching this video with no facial expressions. I mean, he's listening to what's being said. He's attentive. So there's no emotion being shown there. But I can tell you, though, that with this jury upstairs right now, they are their first order of business is to elect a foreperson. The judge told the jury to do that first off. The deliberations, we don't have a timeline on when these deliberations may finish, but the judge did not give any indication of how long he may keep this jury here tonight. But right now, Charles Lemon's future, his fate, his whether he remains a free man, all in the hands of a federal jury, and a verdict could come down at any time. We are now officially here in Florence, South Carolina on verdict watch.
All right, Jody Barr, we appreciate all of your coverage of this. I feel like I was inside of the courtroom today, letting me know exactly what happened. Again, excellent reporting as always, and we look forward to being on jury watch. Hopefully we'll have some answers possibly coming in tonight at 10. Queen City News Chief Investigator Jody Barr joining us live from Florence, South Carolina. And Jody, this verdict came quickly tonight.
Yeah, Alicia, very quickly. In fact, it took just 70 minutes for Charles Lemon's federal jury to announce to the judge that they had reached a unanimous verdict of not guilty for Charles Lemon. The suspended sheriff was at the defense table with his head buried when I walked into court this afternoon when the jury announced they had indeed reached a unanimous verdict in this case. Lemon had to be thinking the worst, since quick verdicts often mean bad news for a defendant. I watched as a clerk read the verdict and announced not guilty. That's when Lemon's head popped up and he looked at his attorney with a look of utter disbelief. Now, I caught up with Charles Lemon when he walked out of the courthouse here tonight. That look on your face when you heard not guilty, I don't think it's sunk in yet, did it?
It hasn't.
What did you hear?
I just heard not guilty, and I just want to say, first, I give God all the glory and all the honor. And I want to thank my family, I want to thank my friends, and I want to thank both of my attorneys.
A lot of people saw that video, and that's all they've seen for the last couple of years. Are you proud of what happened that day? Could you have handled that differently?
I'm not proud of what happened, but at the time, I'll tell you, like I told the jury, split-second decisions, and I tried to do the best I could, and I think that myself and Cook and the jail staff did a great job. We did good.
You think Cook should have taken his case before a jury?
Well, I can't elaborate on that.
Trevor Murphy, you know, those guys that did what they did, they say they felt like they had to do. What would you say to them tonight?
I have no comment on that, Jody, and I appreciate you asking. I think that's a good question to ask. So I will say this. I'll let the good Lord deal with them, and he'll take care of that for me.
Do you think they were doing what they thought was the right thing, or do you think something else was going on?
I'll let the good Lord take care of them.
Well, Jody, Lemon's former deputy Andrew Cook was the one who actually fired the taser in 2020, and he pleaded guilty. You just were talking there to the former sheriff. So what does this verdict mean for him?
Well, Alicia, what it means for him is not much as far as the prosecution goes, because, again, as you just said, Andrew Cook did take that guilty plea to this civil rights violation charge here back in late January. He is awaiting sentencing. You know, Cook had a deal with prosecutors that if he provided substantial assistance in this case to testify against Charles Lemon, then instead of the 10 years that he faced in federal prison, he would face between probation and up to 10 years. But, you know, this verdict also makes you wonder if the jury wrestled with the fact that Charles Lemon never pulled the trigger on that taser here, and it was all Deputy Cook who delivered those 6 tasing shots to Jarrell Johnson. Now, I also wanted to know how the prosecution took this verdict. A huge loss. This was a major loss for the government, the FBI, and SLED agents who all spent the past 2+ years and the last, 5 days of court trying to convict Charles Lemon. When the dust settled here this afternoon, though, this evening, prosecutors, SLED, and the FBI slipped out the back door here at this federal courthouse and came nowhere near our cameras. Now, this all started for us in 2021 when we got this copy of this jailhouse video. It was actually a cell phone recording of the original body camera recording showing Deputy Andrew Cook tasing Jarrell Johnson on the order of Sheriff Lemon. Again, Cook delivered 6 total strikes from the taser that day. Now, body camera recording, this recording was deleted from the sheriff's office evidence room at some point, but SLED got a copy when we got ours. The state indicted Lemon and Cook in December of 2021. The South Carolina Attorney General's office later dropped the state charges of misconduct and felony assault against Lemon and Cook, and the South Carolina Attorney General's office, under the leadership of Alan Wilson, gave the case to the feds to prosecute this federal civil rights case, a case that the U.S. Attorney's Office, SLED, and the FBI all lost here this evening.
Investigator Jody Barr reporting live from Florence, South Carolina tonight. Jody, thank you so much for your coverage.